right. Looks like we are live on YouTube, and I'm pressing the go live button on TikTok right now. I originally was going to do this in a private webinar. Oh, it looks like I'm also echoing. Hold on. There we go. I closed the YouTube video down so I couldn't hear it in the background. Hopefully it's still broadcasting and everything is cool. If not, I will press the record buttons so that we can record it and send it out. All right, so today I wanted to talk a little bit about our number one asset, whether that's in business or in our creative fields, whatever that looks like. Our number one asset is incredibly important. Obviously, it's the number one, it's the most important. And we have to protect that, right? We have to protect that at all costs. Because if we don't protect that, we end up basically spending a lot more money than we need to. We end up losing sight of our business. Sometimes we end up losing our business. So I'd love to know just by, show of comments, show of hands, what do you think the number one business or the number one asset is in business or in your creative pursuits? Drop that into the chat for me or leave a comment on the video if you're watching this afterwards, and tell me what you think the number one asset in business is. And I want you to think about things like money, right? A lot of times people think that businesses need a ton of capital, and that's not true. But capital is important. Maybe it is the office space or your car, especially if you do a lot of driving in business, that might be super important. Um, there's just a ton of different things to think about from a business perspective when you think about your number one or your most important asset in business. And so when you think about those things, I want you to pause for a minute. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me in case you haven't seen me before, in case you're coming across my channel. So my name is Stephanie, and I have been on my entrepreneur journey since 2004. I was just right before I left high school, actually. I was working my own businesses. And it really goes back further than that. I was selling buttons to support the rainforest when I was in elementary school. But I started my first direct sales business straight out of high school. And I ran that business with my aunt for several years, and then decided I didn't care to cater to the youth population because nobody in high school cared about our health and wellness. So I left that direct sales company and joined other direct sales companies like Mary Kay. I did a 10-year stint with Pure Romance for 10 years. I did in-home parties and worked with Pure Romance until 2018. And within that time of working in those fields of direct sales, I learned what it was to run a business, right? It's hard work, it's not always easy. And I learned a little bit about what my most important asset in business was. But I rejoined the ranks of the corporate world, or maybe just initially joined the ranks of the corporate world in 2014. And I worked my corporate job along with my own business for several years, and didn't leave the corporate world until 2022. I worked with many different companies. The first company that I worked for was a company that does business to business direct sale or business to business revenue generation. So I worked in that corporation for a while, and then I moved into a second corporation where I was working in the office with what we call client side in the business to business world. So I was working for that corporation directly and doing a bunch of different things for them, just a lot of project management. Um, so I was in the corporate space for a long time, and I decided to step into leadership. And then as I stepped into leadership, I was also dealing with mental health challenges. So as I stepped into leadership and then got treatment for depression, I realized that not only do a lot of organizations not have a really great leadership development program, but they also don't have any sort of emotional intelligence training or support that can help leaders to be able to cope with associates or even themselves when it comes to things like depression or anxiety. And so I decided to take a step into that space so that I could help leaders to do that. That was in 2021, and I started working with other entrepreneurs to step into that space and realized very quickly that what I really loved to do was help rebel entrepreneurs who had missions like mine, missions to change the world, to speak from the heart, to, there has to be a better way to do things. Let's figure it out. So I started working with entrepreneurs in 2022, actually. I've been doing that now for 3 years. And I have 20 years of entrepreneurship, 15 years of leadership experience. I have a master's degree in leadership and management, and then I have certifications in mental health first aid, trauma-informed coaching, and cognitive behavioral coaching. So a lot of different things that play into this one realm of why I'm talking about the number one asset today. And so I don't have a background in finance. And so you might not think, well, why is she talking about assets, right? Not having a background in finance, but having the experience that I do in entrepreneurship makes me understand my assets a little bit differently. And so I wanted to share that with you from the scope of what today is, and I'll get to what today is. But before we get into that, I want you to take a moment and I want you to think about all of the areas of your life, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to draw a circle, and then I want you to divide that circle up into 7 or 8 different slices. So imagine it's a pie and you're slicing the pie, okay? And after you slice this pie, I want you to assign each slice an area of life. So that might be business, family, fun, fitness. Maybe that's your spirituality. Maybe that's finances. Really, those are kind of the typical ones that we talk about. That's about 6 areas of life. Maybe personal development is one of those. Maybe you want to split out family to family and then spouse if you're married. Maybe you want to split out fun from fun to fun and friends. However, that shapes up for you. Assign those 7 areas of your life to this wheel. And if you're watching this on replay, you can pause here. If you're not watching it on replay, I'm going to go a little bit fast. So please know that if you need to, you know, slow down or you need to pause, you can do that and you can come back to it and it should play from where we left off, hopefully. Once you have assigned all of those areas of life to all of your slices of pie, from the middle of the pie up, I want you to write a series of numbers. So 1 being in the middle, meaning that slice of pie is empty, that it's all gone, there's no more slice of pie. To 10 and or 5, whatever works best for you. And at the edge of the pie, your pie is filled. That's a full slice of pie. Okay. So, in all of these areas of life, you should have an individual ranking for each one when you're done. So, it might look like you have a slice of pie for family, and maybe you haven't spent a lot of time with your family. So, you're going to give that one maybe a 3 on the scale. But you've been spending a ton of time in your business or at work. And so you're going to give that one a 5 or a 10 on the scale. And maybe, from a fitness perspective, you haven't been spending any time working out. Maybe that's a 1. So that's how that's going to look. And at some point, you're going to get kind of almost like a spider web looking type of drawing. There's a real name for that chart, and I can't think of it for the life of me this morning. But you're going to take that chart, right? And you're just going to assess, where are you on this scale? Where are you in each of these areas of life? And there's a reason why I'm asking you to do this. So I'm going to pause for just a minute. For those of you that are watching live, I'm literally just going to give you a minute. So do this quickly. It's not super important that it's done perfectly today, and you can come back and watch this video later. But I'm going to give you just a minute to do that. So. Have at it. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show you a little bit of what this might look like. Okay. So it might look like something like this. This is kind of a poor drawing when it comes to this. They really probably should be more colored in. I used smart art. Okay, bear with me. But essentially, like if you were to go up to seven, you could color in that whole slice of pie to see how full you are. But this is what it kind of might look like, is a little bit like a spider web, or like an incomplete somebody ate out of a piece of pie, right? But my question to you is in this slice of pie, in this wheel of life, what is the most important area of life, right? What's the common thread between all of these things? What do all of these areas of life have in common? The answer is that all of these areas of life have you in common, every single one of them. You can't focus on your partner and romancing your partner if you don't also take care of you, because if you're sick or if you're not here at all, there's no you to have a relationship with. And the same goes for your friends and your family. You can't have fun if you're not taking care of yourself. Obviously your health and fitness is impacted by you, right? And you are at the center of health and fitness, but you're also at the center of your career and your work, as well as your spirituality. I mean, spirituality in and of itself is such a unique journey, and every single one of us feels differently and thinks differently when it comes to spirituality. And of course, you are at the center of your money and your finances. So, whatever area of your life that you're thinking of, you are at the center of that, right? You are at the center. And so the reason that I chose today to do this particular session is because today is actually National Self-Care Day, International Self-Care Day. And what I really want you to understand is that you are the most important asset in your business. You are the number one asset in your business or in your creative pursuits. If we don't take care of ourselves and we don't prioritize ourselves, we can't take care of any other area of life, especially not our business. And I'm kind of preaching to the choir, I know, to some of you because you understand this, but I feel like I need constant reminders of this because I think as a society, we're really hard on ourselves. It's we need to be productive, we need to work. Rest is not an option. And I think that this idea of productivity and work equaling your value has kind of infiltrated our internal belief systems to the point where we can't sleep at night. We're not eating right because we're too busy with work or our business or even our creative pursuits, right? We forget to move. Most of our work is done on a computer screen like this, and we forget that we have to move our bodies, right? We forget to play. As soon as you become an adult, it's like playing is off limits. Aren't you a little old for those crayons? Aren't you a little old for trick or treating? Aren't you a little old to do all of this stuff? No, I'm not. I'm still a kid. I'm just trapped in this adult body, right? So we forget to take time to play. We forget to take time to think. I love the phrase I think therefore I am, and we could debate on this philosophical ideals behind that all day long, but when we think, we get a chance to explore all different types of things, right? And that's important. We get a chance to connect with ourselves through that thinking process. And connection is another aspect that we really have to think about when we're looking at protecting ourselves and our number one asset. If we're our number one asset and we have to protect ourselves, I know there's a lot of people who might be listening to this who feel like connecting with other people is really difficult and it's really risky. But studies show that from a health perspective, connection with other people, the right people, can actually help us with our health. Um, Studies show that if you're over the age of 65 and you have a good support network and a good network of friends and you still engage in friendly activities like cards and games and going on trips with each other and connecting with friends, that you have better heart health. So when we think about creating a protection plan for our number one asset, and that's really the way I want you to frame it for yourself. This is not something you can continue to put on hold. This is creating a protection plan right now to protect the number one asset, which is you, right? That's putting time in your calendar to make sure that you get sleep. It's putting time in your calendar to make sure that you're going grocery shopping so that you can cook healthy meals for yourself, or meal planning, or doing a day of prep, right? It's making sure that you are putting time in your calendar to get out of your house and move, to get into the sunshine, to get into nature, because those are things that we need to connect with too. So when we create our protection plan for our number one asset, we want to make sure that we're including the essentials, right? Sleep, nutrition, movement, okay? Hydration, if you struggle with that too. You want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself in a way that protects you from illness, from sickness. You are your number one asset. And if you can't show up for your business, if you can't show up for your life, it doesn't happen, right? But I want to include in your protection plan things that protect your mental health and your ability to play and think and be creative. And I want you to include time for connection, right? Connection with people who support you, who love you, who care about you, right? So when you're going through your protection plan and you're putting that time frame in your calendar, I know it's going to be overwhelming. And I know you're sitting here going, when am I going to have time for all of this? I work 8 hours a day. I have a business that I run, 10 hours a day. When do I have time to think about when can I play? But it's so important. It's so critical. And even if you just start with 5 minutes a day, and maybe you keep a drawing pad next to you and a pack of crayons and you just color for 5 minutes a day. It does so many good things for your mental health to get creative and to explore with color. So just play, right? Even if you keep a small set of Legos, not logos, but Legos at your desk so that you can build something, right? One of the things that I do is I have a poppet, right? I have a poppet, I have thinking putty. I play when I'm on calls with people, right? Because one, it helps me to stay focused. I have a little bit of ADHD. Okay, that's not true. I have a lot of ADHD. And when I'm on calls with people, it helps me to focus, but it also engages parts of my brain that allow me to retain memories a lot better, right? So getting an opportunity to play in whatever way that looks like for you, however you can shape that up within your life, getting the opportunity to set time aside just for thoughts, just to allow yourself to think. That's where innovation comes from. And I think one of the challenges that we have as individuals is we get so bogged down by all of the duties that we have that we forget that carving out time for thinking is also important, right? Thinking and processing and pulling all of that information together, making that connection, right? So those are some of the things that I want you to include in your protection plan. So just as a summary, make sure you're getting adequate sleep and nutrition and movement. Make sure you're setting time aside each week to play, to think, and to connect with others. Those things are critical to making sure that you have a protection plan that works for you. Now, the implementation process is a little bit tricky when you have a full schedule. Okay. So wondering the first step in this is wondering what can you take off your plate if your schedule is too full. And as business owners, especially if you're a business owner and you're solo, this seems impossible. There's nothing we can take off of our plates because there's so much to do and we're the only ones to do it, right? So understanding that the intention is to protect you so that you can show up, right? Understand that there are studies upon studies upon studies that are telling you the same thing that I'm telling you right now, that if you take periods of rest, if you take time to think, if you take time to play, if you take time to make sure that your brain is fueled with the right nutrition and hydration and sleep, you can show up better in your business. You can get more done with less time if you protect yourself. So, understanding the intention of doing these things is about protecting yourself and about making you more productive so you can show up the way that you need to in whatever place that looks like, right? Also, understanding that the best laid plans sometimes don't work out, right? And so we can plan, and then things will come up. So understanding that the plan is just the plan. It doesn't mean that it's what has to happen. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. Setting the intention that it's going to happen is one thing, but also understanding that life happens, right? So when life happens, replan, right? Take that time out after life happens to take some time in the evening or in the on the weekend so that you can take that time that you need for all of those things that we talked about. Okay? Being just aware. Awareness in action is one of the most important parts of implementing a protection plan for yourself. Being aware of what's going on in your life, how things are moving, how you feel during the day. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of the struggles that we have in our life is because we've forgotten what our body physically feels like, right? Our body takes in millions of pieces of information every single day. It stuffs it into our brain processes and filters it through our lenses of experience and understanding of the world. And then it pumps out these things called emotions. But emotions are called feelings because they are actual feelings in our body. So our brain is going to tell us without us even having to think about it when we're hungry, when we need rest, when we need to take time off. And we just have to be aware of what our body is telling us. We have to be aware of how we're showing up, what's happening, how we are experiencing the world, right? When we make that commitment, though, and we make that plan and we actually commit to prioritizing ourselves, that allows us to have that awareness, to understand that plans change, but still take care of ourselves, still protect ourselves. So scheduling is super important, making sure that you have this information on a schedule so that you can see this is my meditation time to connect with my spirituality. This is my time to go to lunch once a week with friends so that I can connect and see them and have that support system, right? This is my time to sleep. Schedule your sleep. Go to bed on time, right? Your scheduling is about setting up guardrails for now, right? None of us are good at this yet. Even those of us that have been practicing this for a really long time still sometimes give way too much of ourself rather than taking care of ourselves. So if we can set the guardrails for right now and then set up long-term plans and support systems to help us through this, it's really important, which is one of the other things that I wanted to talk about. Balancing all of these areas of life. I know some of you have probably heard of the term work-life balance, and if you're like me, you vomit in your mouth a little bit every time that you hear that because it's really kind of a fake term, right? But balancing your life and your business is an active pursuit. It isn't something that you achieve. You don't hit the mark one day and be like, whoop, it's balanced. I don't have to think about it anymore. Just like it is when you're balancing on one leg, right? It's an active pursuit. Even when you have found that stability and you can stand on one leg for a long period of time, it is still a matter of engaging all the muscles in your body. And that's exactly what balancing life looks like, right? We have to balance our life over and over and over and over again every day because things change. The areas of our life change, and we have to be active in the pursuit of that balance. Otherwise, it all falls apart. You have to think about your financial plans, right? Because if we're not taken care of and we're struggling to pay the bills and we're struggling to do these things, it puts us in survival mode. And when we're in survival mode, it's really hard for us to balance life because all we're thinking about is how to survive. But I really want to go back to that area of scheduling because even in survival mode, we still have to take care of ourselves. We still have to make sure that we are protecting the number one asset, which is us, right? So, with that, I'm going to re-say that today is International Self-Care Day, right? So, if you haven't taken time to play or to create or to think or to sleep or to connect with other people, take some time today or tomorrow or this weekend to ensure that you have set up a schedule to do that today or tomorrow or this weekend, but don't let it go past this weekend. Do something now that allows you to get creative, allows you to think about all the things, right, that you feel like thinking about, that you want to think about, that you want to explore the ideas that seem childish or foolish, right? What would happen if an elephant stood on its head, right? It's silly. Think about it, okay? And allow yourself to play in that space and to be creative in that space. Schedule it today. From a standpoint of protecting yourself long term, that's where I come in, right? And that's where I help people to ensure that they have the support that they need to balance their life, right? This isn't about making sure that things are perfect. It's about having support to vent to somebody when schedules mess up, when our plans don't happen the way that we want to, when business isn't going the way that we want to, or maybe it is going the way that we want to, and we're really overwhelmed. We don't feel like we have time to protect ourselves, right? I've actually created a membership for entrepreneurs who are rebels, who are understand that things need to change in the world at large, understand that in reality, systems need to break for us to be able to rebuild new systems. So I've created a membership that is all about rebel entrepreneurs who are out here changing the world. They're on a mission to make the world a better place, and they forget about themselves because the mission is so important. And that's what I support entrepreneurs with doing is remembering themselves and remembering to take care of other people. And I help them in ways of implementing projects and working through projects that sometimes seem really overwhelming and they can't get their brains wrapped around it. So I invite you to, let me know if that's something that you're interested. You can send me a message or a DM. We can meet and we can have a conversation. Otherwise, you can visit the links on that I'll leave in the description. If you are watching from TikTok, you're welcome to check out my profile, and in the link on my profile, it has the link to the Rebel Dream Lab, which is what the community is called. And I invite you to join us for that so that you can get the support that you deserve. All right, I am actually going to go live again today, a little later this evening. Let me see here. I have it scheduled for 6:45 Central Time, so 5:45. If you are in the UK, it's really, really late. It's like midnight tonight. But I encourage you to drop your questions here in the comments and tune into that live, and I will answer any questions that you have on how to do this and how to support yourself and protect your number one asset. All right.